Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at the standard that contains everything with volume. So today we're going to be taking just a quick peek back at the volume formulas for cones, cylinders, and spheres and using them to solve problems. So today in USA Test Prep, you will have that standards checkpoint 7. So please make sure you're completing that standards checkpoint 7. It'll include every standard from this week. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. It says a science teacher fills a spherical bubble with hydrogen gas. The bubble has a diameter of 8 centimeters. Find the volume of the hydrogen gas in terms of pi and explain or show how you found your answer. So the first thing I want to remind you guys of is your FSA reference sheet does not include volume formulas, so you will have to know them. So when we're talking about volume for a sphere, we're talking about 4/3 pi r cubed. That r stands for radius, which if you look back in this problem, they gave us a diameter. So what that means is that the whole length across is 8 centimeters. A radius is equal to half of the diameter. So my radius is only half of that 8, which means my radius is 4 centimeters. So now what I can do is I can plug this in. So my volume formula, I'm going to take my 4 and I'm going to plug it in for the radius. So volume equals 4/3 pi r cubed. So when you're solving volume formulas, this is 4 cubed, which is 4 times 4 times 4, which is 64. Not 4 times 3, which is 12. So remember, when something is cubed, you're multiplying it by itself 4 times. So when I go to solve this, it wants us to leave this in terms of pi, which means I'm going to keep this pi symbol. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to multiply my two numerators. So my volume is equal to 256 pi over 3. And this would be in centimeters cubed. So whenever they say leave in terms of pi, they're looking for that pi symbol to still be there. All right. Next, we're going to look at a cone. So a cone, it says sugar was traditionally produced as solid as sugar loaves, which are cones of sugar wrapped in paper. Find the volume of a cone-shaped sugar loaf with a base diameter of 8 centimeters and a height of 22 centimeters. Explain or carefully show how you calculate the volume. So I want you to pause for a moment and see if you can remember what the volume formula for a cone is. Well, that volume formula is 1/3 pi r squared h. So a cone and a cylinder are a little bit different than a sphere because we have a radius and we have a height. So we have a radius and we have a height that we're going to have to plug in. Again, they're saying that the diameter is 8. So when I need to use the radius, remember r is radius, h is height, I can't plug in 8, I have to plug in 4 because I'm looking for a radius and a radius is half of that diameter. So 4 squared times h, and that height they gave us is 22, so 22. So now we're going to solve. The first thing I always would encourage you to do is get rid of any exponents. So 4 squared is 16. And then from here you can solve this a few different ways. We can multiply by pi, we could do the 1/3. I like to get all of the numbers done first and then use that pi symbol. So what I'm going to do is I'm at first going to multiply 16 by 22. So that will give me 1/3 pi times 352. Now I'm going to take that 352 and multiply it by 1/3 or divide by 3, which gives me approximately 117.3 repeating. And then I'm going to multiply that by pi, and pi is 3.14. So when I multiply these, I get approximately 368.426, and they gave us centimeters cubed. All right. Moving right along, let's go ahead and recall our cylinder formula. So the volume for a cylinder, what is that formula? That formula is volume equals pi r squared h. So pi r squared h. So it says until 2014, the mass of a kilogram was defined as exactly equal to the mass of a special platinum iridium cylinder kept in Severs, France. The cylinder's diameter and height are both 39.2 millimeters. What is the volume of the cylinder? So our diameter is 39.2 millimeters, and our height is 39.2 millimeters. So my height is 39.2, my diameter is 39.2, but remember this formula calls for a radius, so half of that is 19.6. So to get to my radius, I'm going to take that 39.2 and divide it by 2, which is 19.6. So what I want you to do is pause this video, go ahead and plug in your radius and your height, and see what you get for your answer. So they want to know the volume of this cylinder. So when I square 19.6, that is 19.6 times 19.6. Remember that we're squaring, which is 384.16. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply that by 39.2. So my volume is 15,059.072 pi millimeters cubed. Okay, so moving right along, it says, what is the volume of a cylinder with a radius of 4 and a height of 5? Go ahead and practice. Find that volume of this cylinder. So the volume of this cylinder, since it is a cylinder, we're going to be using pi r squared h. So this time they gave me that radius of 4. So I'm going to be plugging in 4. 4 squared is 16 times 5. So we're going to multiply 16 by 5, which is 80. So my volume is 80 pi meters cubed. All right, the last one that we're going to look at is actually how the cone formula comes about. So the figure shows a right cylinder and a right circular cone. The cylinder and the cone have the same base and the same height. What is the volume of the cone? So go ahead and pause and practice finding the volume of the cone. That volume of that cone is 1/3 pi r squared h. So my radius is going to be 4, and my height is going to be 3. 4 squared is 16 times 3. So 16 times 3 is 48. And 1/3 of 48 is 16. So the volume for my cone is 16 pi. It says, what is the ratio of the cone's volume to the cylinder's volume? So in order to answer that, we need to find the volume of the cylinder. So take a moment and find the volume of the cylinder. So to find that volume of that cylinder, we're going to be squaring that radius, multiplying it by our height. So we end up with 48 pi. So our ratio is 16 pi to 48 pi. Well, if we were to write this, and let me write this right here, 16 pi over 48 pi. The pi over pi cancels out, and 16 over 48 reduces to 1/3. So that's where this 1/3 in the cone formula comes from, because a cone of equal radius and equal height are 1/3. The relationship is 1/3. So a cone is 1/3 of a cylinder, and a cylinder is 3 times a cone. All right, guys, please make sure you're practicing this standard in USA Test Prep. It is called G.3.9. We are almost done. We've got 2 more videos this week, and then you will have your FSA. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day. Goodbye.